In the previous video, the Bantu ancestors in the Bible, I touched on the sons of Ham, which is Cush, Mizraim, Put, and Canaan, and the sons of Cush were Sheba, Havilah, Sabta, Rama, Sabteka, and the sons of Rama, Sheba, Dedan. Dedan is where we get Sudan, and Cush begat Nimrod, and so forth. So this is what we touched on in the first part. Now we're going to be carrying on from here going forward. And first we'll go to Genesis 16, verse 1. So we have the issue of Hagar. Now Sarai, Abraham's wife, bare him no children, and she had a handmaid, an Egyptian, whose name was Hagar. So the story of Hagar is the story of how she became a mother of nations through the birth of the children of Abraham. And here it says that she had this angelic encounter. So this is going to be a recurring theme. You're going to see the angelic encounters with the Bantu people or the black people. As we've already seen, the Egyptians were black. This is the name of Cush. And the angel of the Lord said unto her, I will multiply thy seed exceedingly, and it shall not be numbered for multitude. So this was also the part of the lineage that happened through the Bantu ancestry. There's one thing that I need to emphasize is that the African people actually come from the Midianites, the Hebrews through Abraham and Sarah, which is Eber, and also from Ham, which is in the first part, which is Shem. So you're going to see the intertwining of the different names. And the Hebrew names have always been important, such as the name of Sheba. So the name Sheba, when you see it, when you hear it, when you read it, it has the Eba. And this is where we get the word of Heba, Eba. And the story of the Queen of Sheba is a very interesting story. And she's a very famous black woman who is in the Bible, very mysterious, as it always is, as it is in the video about Ham. The story of Ham is always mysterious. So here is also another mystery that David had another woman called Sheba, Bathsheba. So they were both Sheba, and all of these women also had this mysterious allure to them, and everything that happened is also something else that we can discuss at another time. But this name Sheba, as we can see, will be traced from back in the lineage of Ham. But you should also see where it's hemmed, where it also becomes the same in Shem. So first of all, we see the son of Cush, which is a son of Ham. Cush means black. And Sheba, Havilah, and then we have Sheba. In the video, I went over the name of Cush, and Cush means black. Cush has these children, Sheba, Havilah, Sabta, Rama, Sabteka. And the son of Rama is Sheba, and the other one is Dedan, where we get the word Sudan. And when we go to Shem, we see something that's somewhat the same through Shem and Eba. Eba, which is the queen of Sheba. All right, let's look closer at Eba. So here unto Eba we see he had two children, Peleg and Joktan. And there's a whole mystery to that, and we'll do Eba justice when we talk about that. And here we read Obal, Abimael, Sheba, Ophir, Havilah, and Jobab. All these were the sons of Joktan, which is the son of Eba. So this is another trace of Eba to Sheba. But now we see how they're hemmed, because it's the same as Ham with Cush having a son called Sheba. So this is a whole mystery. But let's move on to other ancestors from the Bantu, which are mysteriously in the Bible. And this is just you also trying to figure out if it's actually as it is, like a Barian. Before going a little bit deeper, I just wanted to say that for some people who might be wondering if this is just wordplay, it's important to realize that everyone at some point, as we started this video, we started part one, we started that with the fact that we're all at Babel. And from Babel, everyone had the same language. And all of these people were also there. That's why they're still here now. but now we're just tracing their lineage back from there in Babylon and what happened and until how they came to be who they are, where they are right now, and what they've forgotten. So it's very important to know that this is not just a play on words, but this is why it's actually called Babylon. And this is why my people perish from a lack of knowledge. But here is something very interesting. We have Ebed-Melech. He was a servant in the king's palace. He was also a eunuch. So he doesn't actually have a genealogy, but we see from Jeremiah chapter 38 that he was actually an Ethiopian. And his name is also Ebed, which is akin to Eba. And this person was able to rescue Jeremiah, and his story is pretty interesting, and it's a very honorable mention, although we're not going to see how his genealogy came about because of the circumstances. But he is an Ethiopian, and it's interesting to see that he played such a pivotal role, and he also had access to the king's palace. So it's also interesting that Jeremiah is the one who said this famous line, "Can the Ethiopian change his skin?" And I know that this line is very important because it speaks about Ethiopia, which was the first country mentioned in the book of Genesis. And it also speaks about the description of the people from that land, which is the black people. And that descriptive element is going to be present throughout this video because it's also being brought out, and the whole name from the word from Babel, we're using the words in the name because this is the word in the name, right? And now we're also going to be using the image, which is the likeness, which is the light. This is Israelite, his real light. And this is why it was always important for them to have genealogy so that they know that his real light is there in existence. So when we get into the book of Songs of Solomon, we see a description of the lover of this woman, and this king, King Solomon, is apparently having a head. His head is of the most fine gold. His locks are bushy and black as a raven. So also something also descriptive about Solomon is his character, which is found in the First Kings chapter 4 from 31. For he was wiser than all men, and than Ethan the Israelite, Herman, all of the people, and is famed to nations round about. And he spoke about 3,000 proverbs, and the songs were 1,005. And he spoke of trees, from the cedar tree to Lebanon, even to the hyssop that springs from the wall. He spoke of beasts and of fowl and of creeping things and of fishes. And they came from all people to hear the wisdom of Solomon, from all the kings of the earth, which had heard of his wisdom. And this is his description in his character. And there's also another part where we have a description of his appearance. So that's Solomon. But then again, the appearance of Solomon having dreadlocks was not something that was so unusual in this culture, because there is the story of the Nazarites. And when we read about the Nazarites, we understand that they were given a certain lifestyle, and their lifestyle was to represent the culture of nature, the culture of purity. They had power, a certain connection. And let's look at the Nazarites a little bit. I'll read Numbers chapter 6 from verse 5. All the days of the vow of his separation, there shall no razor come upon his head until the days be fulfilled in which he separates himself unto the Lord. He shall be holy, and shall let the locks of the hair of his head grow. All the days he separates himself unto the Lord, he shall come at no dead body. He shall not make himself unclean for his father or his mother or his brother or for his sister when they die, because the consecration of God is upon his head. All the days of the separation, he is holy unto the Lord. So all of the people who took this vow they actually used a word, and you first of all had to be an Israelite. So of course you first of all had to know the genealogy and know that Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, and all of that. They always used to talk about that. That's why I'm talking about it. So they always used to know, like, you had to be an Israelite, and then you had to take a certain vow, a word, and then they used that word to signify the word becoming that consecration and that attachment. So there was a certain power to being a Nazarite. And I'm just going to take a small tangent here. And if you're really actually enjoying this research and you'd like to support it, I would also like for you to be involved in everything that I'm doing, so this independent research can keep on going, so that it won't also just be independent. But at the same time, this is a video that I'm showing in the background where I was talking about, or I really was talking about the power of Hannah's prayer and how it was her radiating a certain type of prayer, and that radiation is like the radiance. And then I was talking about that, and then that video is called The Power of Holy Hair. And here I'm just talking about hair a little bit, because the power of hair from the Nazarenes, it's essentially something that was giving Samuel power. So at some point and somehow, the human hair is able to generate a certain type of magnetic quality or element to it. And then when we also look into how the Nazarenes were supposed to live, I'm just going to show you something. So I'm going to show you this little video, and in that video just look into why this hair, because the significance of having this hair on these priests was so that they would be attached to God. So they basically had this being like the radiance or the roots or the something. And then they didn't necessarily have to have long dreadlocks, because some of the Nazarenes could be a Nazarene for life, and some of them could be a Nazarene for like 30 days, whatever the situation was, such as Hannah had her own vow, and that vow had its radiance. And that radiance brought about Samuel the prophet, who had this hair and he was able to see with clarity. And the same thing is what I'm saying keeps on happening with the power of this hair, in that it's curly, which is like a spring. And when you see how they create those turbines, it's always twirling and curling and spiraling. But then that's what their hair was like. And then it was growing into these long, very powerful. And then this was also something that they were told was to abstain from, which is to things to do with wine and blood. And you also see the significance of Jesus turning wine into blood. So we're going to talk about that a little bit, and right now we're going to see the power of blood. So life is in the blood, but blood is actually a live current. It's a current of actual flow of energy that gives us life. The Nazarites represents the roots, the culture, power, and connection with purity. And then they're in a state of such sanctification that if they touch something, what do you think would happen to them? For example, so was that going to transfer to them, or was it going to was it going to magnetize to them, or something like that? So what do you think would have been the situation?
Okay everyone, today I'm going to be using my giant neodymium magnet to see if it can actually attract the iron in our blood.
So we saw how hair could become a magnet, but now we're going to see how that hair was going to be the magnet's creator, was not supposed to be in contact with the wine or the blood. So we're just going to see how this magnet, or this magnetic force, would act when blood is presented. So what do you think would happen? It's an interesting experiment.
Let's see what happens when we bring our magnet near it. Well, it's actually moving it away from it. It's definitely not attracted to the magnet. Okay, so why wasn't the magnet?
Wow, so it's interesting that it actually is repulsive. And if you want the full description, you should just go see the full video, and then he's going into some other things. So the way that I see it, it's like, imagine that hair is like supercharged with this magnetism and the electric, and it's rooted in that vow, the power of that word, and that word actually happening. This reminds me of the power of the tongue of Jesus when he starts to speak in the book of Revelation. But then let's look at this. He's actually going to go further with this experiment and look in the iron and the blood, and now he's going to burn it. So now just look at what happens after he burns it, and it's going to make sense why he's burning it later when we get into more of the information in this video. But this is a very interesting experiment, and so just look at what happens next.
Okay, this should be pretty burned now, completely oxidized. Okay, so we have our burned blood here. Okay, now I'm gonna sprinkle this in the water and now see if it's attracted to the magnet. Okay, here we go.
And of course, our bodies are made up of water and blood, and that blood has iron.
Hey, look. It's attracted to the magnet. I'm not touching the water, but look at it come to it.
So it's interesting that our God is a jealous God, zealous God. He burns with zeal. He's also a consuming fire. So this is also how we see that we're also supposed to burn with this fire. It does something to our blood.
Let's put a big chunk in there and see.
So yeah, this is blood, actually burnt blood. And we're talking about bloodlines. And thank you so much for making it this far into the video. And thank you so much for everyone who has been supporting. I really appreciate it. May God bless you. So in the next video, we're going to see how burnt skin became Bantu skin. And we're also going to see how Ethiopia was also, southern Ethiopia was called Inner Ethiopia, and Ethiopia today was Abyssinia.